Lou here. You know what's a childhood favorite of mine? Yu-Gi-Oh! Throughout the year of 2021, I thought it would be really fun to go back and review the most nostalgic anime to me. This will be a new series where I do review every season of Yu-Gi-Oh! I say every season because a lot happens per season, and I don't want to rush explaining a plot because it could make it sound bad, and each season has their own strengths and weaknesses. That, and I am going to be talking about changes between the American version and the Japanese version. So roll the intro, and let's get started. Yu-Gi-Oh's anime as we know it is actually the second adaptation of Yu-Gi-Oh! Toei Animation originally made an entire season and movie with minimal success, but it did a pretty decent job at following the manga before it focused on the card games. Trust me, I will get to season 0 eventually. This anime was made by Studio Gallop, known for adapting Rurouni Kenshin and the first season of Initial D. The anime premiered in 2000 and was directed by Sugishima Kunihisa, whose biggest work is actually Yu-Gi-Oh! But he was a storyboarder for the second season of Code Geass and pretty much does script writing and storyboarding for a lot of lesser known anime. Alright, let's begin with the story. Like literally everyone else watching this video, I will be referring to everyone by their dub names, and I apologize in advance to any sub purists out there. Obviously, I know Taya is actually named Anzu, but hey, I'll put their original names in the differences between the dub and original. Yugimoto is a typical high school student? How old is he? 15-ish kid who's best friends with fellow teens Joey Wheeler, Tristan Taylor, Taya Gardner, and Bakura Ryu, who's part of their friend group whenever the show remembers Bakura as a character. Duel Monsters is a popular game all the teens play, and Yugi decides to play with his best friend Joey. You're probably wondering if the anime follows the actual rules of the card game? Fuck no! To be fair, it's probably a good thing, since following the actual rules of the card game would probably take like 3 hours for one round, and no one would win because all their decks are not allowed in competitive play. Anyway, Yugi talks about how his grandfather owns a card shop and owns a super special awesome rare card, which rich bitch Seto Kaiba hears about and decides to follow the teens to Yugi's grandpa's house and card shop. We meet Yugi's grandpa, who Joey begs to teach him how to duel with Duel Monsters, where we're introduced to Joey's entire character arc for the rest of the series, which is that he's an underdog constantly trying to match up to his better friends. It's a good character arc on paper, and in Season 1 it's actually pretty great, but let me just say, it gets pretty old come the final arc. So Kaiba storms in to see Yugi's grandpa's super special awesome rare card, which is a Blue Eyes White Dragon, which only 3 were ever made according to the lore of this anime. Okay, fair enough, I may own one of these bad boys myself, but they are fairly pricey online as far as Yu-Gi-Oh cards go, so I guess the whole thing about Blue Eyes being rare is kind of true to life. Kaiba begs Yugi's grandpa to give him the card by offering an entire briefcase full of rare cards he casually carries around, which will be a staple of Seto Kaiba, being that he is ridiculously rich and extra beyond belief. Not to mention making me jealous for years to come that I don't carry my cards or deck in a briefcase. Yugi's grandfather denies Kaiba because the card has a lot of sentimental value to him because it was gifted to him by a close friend, but Kaiba tells him he's nuts and leaves. I guess the next day, Yugi comes home from school to find Kaiba sent his bodyguards to kidnap Yugi's grandfather, where he brings his friends with him to fight Kaiba, I guess? Kaiba returns Yugi's grandfather to him, who is apparently injured. Kaiba beat him where he says he's the current king of Duel Monster card games, where he shows the Blue Eyes White Dragon he stole from Yugi's grandfather, proceeding to rip it in half. Kaiba then proclaims he wanted it to destroy it, where Yugi challenges him to a duel to win his grandfather's honor back, I guess. And Yugi's grandfather gives him his deck. This is where we see the infamous thing of Heart of the Cards Yu-Gi-Oh fans have memed about for years. While his grandfather is in the hospital, Yugi transforms into an entirely new person who is pretty much him if he got a little taller and went through puberty. This Yugi, at this point in the manga, is called Dark Yugi, who's a lot more confident than regular Yugi. While they play Duel Monsters, we see the staple of Yu-Gi-Oh! And is a dream for all people playing VR games right now with giant realistic hologram monsters. To be honest, I still wish this was a thing in real life, and I'm not just saying that because it means that I can look at Vampire Killer's handsome face. Well, this entire first season is literally cheating, so Kaiba just plops down 3 Blue Eyes White Dragons at some point and announces he has all 3, and destroyed Yugi's grandpa's card because he wants to be the only one in the world to have them. Why? We never actually find out in both the manga and anime until way later in the series on why Kaiba is obsessed with these cards, but I gotta say, I never realized how much his Dragon King is hinted early on. Do you think Seto Kaiba would be a fan of Dragon Maid? This is when Yugi feels like he's going to lose, but the power of friendship with Taya, Joey, and Tristan reminds him that he can do this. He does remember one thing his grandfather's deck has, and it's the riskiest monster to build your deck off of in Yu-Gi-Oh! And thanks to having hope, confidence, friendship, and cheating, Yugi summons the almighty Exodia to auto-win the duel. When he beats Kaiba, Dark Yugi uses his strange powers from his Millennium Puzzle, and it shocks Kaiba and unlocks the light in his heart, so he can learn not to be such a selfish bitch. Though what's funny to me is that he doesn't use this power ever again outside of Season 1. I'm thinking the puzzle was out of batteries that day because they really didn't fucking do anything for both this season and the following ones. After defeating Kaiba, the creator of Duel Monsters, named Maximilian Pegasus, is interested to hear Yugimoto won against him, so he sends him a magical VHS tape to fight him in a shadow game. Basically, some kind of ancient Egyptian ritual where the loser, well, loses their soul. Pegasus keeps predicting Yugi's moves, and just before time is up, he announces that he has a Millennium Eye and that he can read minds. For losing, Pegasus takes Yugi's grandpa's soul and challenges to come to Duelist Kingdom to try and win him back. Which means Yugi's grandpa can't catch a fucking break. Yugi decides to go, and although his friends plan to sneak on board, Joey hears a $3 million reward is given if you win, and it just so happens Joey's sister needs an eye operation or else she's gonna go permanently blind. Even though Joey sucks, he's coming to Duelist Kingdom to save his sister. Joey and his sister, Serenity, were separated when they were pretty young. Their parents divorced, but instead of staying together, Joey was forced to live with his alcoholic and gambling father. I'm not sure who the fuck was in charge of this custody battle, but someone clearly fucked up. Yugi and Joey head to Duelist Kingdom with Taya and Tristan sneaking on board to support them. It's standard Duel of the Week adventures in Duelist Kingdom, but it does pick up with Bakura at least. Bakura has a Millennium item too, and this time it's a ring. Just like the puzzle, there's a spirit inside of this one, but the soul inside Bakura is super evil. He's called Dark Bakura in the manga and at this point in the series, but here it's just Bakura. To be honest, I would have preferred Bakura 2, Electric Boogaloo. This is where Yugi learns about the Dark Yugi inside of him, as no one apparently knew he randomly went through puberty during every duel, so they sort of finally realize there's 2 Yugis. I'll be honest, outside of Kaiba's storyline and a few duels, I was never a big fan of Duelist Kingdom. I guess it's because I just didn't ever find Mai very interesting in any version of Yu-Gi-Oh! Bandit Keith was pretty lame, Mako Tsunami was just Shark Boy in an anime skin, Rex Raptor is just a tiny Diego Brando, and Weevil Underwood has a bug kink. I mean, that's pretty much it. Where it really kicks up is in Kaiba and Mokuba's storylines. We find out that Kaiba and Mokuba were orphaned at a young age, but Kaiba used his incredibly smart mind to trick a wealthy businessman into adopting the two of them, where he got the new last name of Kaiba. Yet Kaiba took a break from everything because Dark Yugi cleared his mind of his anger and being a general dick to people, but Pegasus wants to buy Kaiba Corp from under him, and so Kaiba had to disappear and fake his death, but Mokuba either thinks he's dead or disappeared. When he shows up at Duelist Kingdom, Pegasus captures Mokuba and steals his soul too. He vows he'll give him back if Kaiba beats him at Duelist Kingdom, and if he loses, he'll lose his soul too, and Pegasus shall receive Kaiba Corp. In a final duel with Yugi, he starts panicking and his desperation to win and protect his family goes too far, where Kaiba threatens to take his own life, which causes an inner conflict. Dark Yugi says they should defeat Kaiba anyway, but regular Yugi says they shouldn't, where Yugi feels like his other self isn't safe to come out anymore as he doesn't want anyone else to die. Yugi lets Kaiba win, but Mai helps Yugi win anyway. What was the point in all of that? So Taya could do something! Seriously, Sakura and Taya should have a battle over who's more useless. With Yugi's identity crisis fixed, I guess, Kaiba loses pretty much immediately dueling Pegasus and gets his soul taken too, where now Yugi vows to win everyone's souls back. In the meantime, Bakura, Taya, and Tristan discover a strange woman Pegasus has all around the castle, where Dark Bakura comes back for some reason, hinting more at further events to come. The time comes, and Yugi duels Pegasus, where the two Yugis get a brilliant idea of constantly switching in and out their minds, where one would think of the next move while the other's inactive, so Pegasus couldn't read it. It's pretty brilliant, actually. Yet constantly switching your soul out with an ancient Egyptian spirit probably isn't a good idea, which causes Yugi to pass out from severe mental exhaustion of this trick. Yet they somehow win anyway thanks to the wonderful world of cheating in Season 1. Seriously, I've run out of hands now for how many times they made up shit and kinda made battles pretty unfair. Then again, I played the card game around the second arc, so I have no idea if the card game really was super inconsistent and kinda dumb like this back when Season 1 was released. Well, thanks to the power of friendship and cheating, Yugi wins the duel! Though here's the interesting part. In the manga, when Yugi defeats Pegasus, Dark Bakura rips out his Millennium Eye and Pegasus dies. He also adopted twins who went to take over his company and had their own arc in the manga, so that's a thing. We do find out what his deal is, though. Basically, Pegasus came from a rich family and fell in love with a really sweet girl named Cecilia. She was so beautiful and sweet that she inspired Pegasus to become a painter, where he drew many portraits of her. Though just as they got married, she got really sick and died, where he pretty much shut down from grief. He travels all over the world in search of some way to speak with her again or bring her back, where he comes across a strange man named Shadi, who basically says Pegasus is potential of possessing the eye and shoves it right into his actual eye. I'm surprised 4Kids never censored that because it's pretty gruesome. I mean, they did because they removed blood, but I mean, they didn't cut the scene altogether, so that's the surprising part. Well, the magic of the eye works for a split second where he sees his wife again, but she quickly disappears. This is when he gets the idea to combine ancient Egyptian magic and Kaiba Corp's technology to basically resurrect his wife so he can be with her again. You know what's funny is if the dumb fuck just waited until Dark Side of Dimensions, he totally could have had that. Anyway, Shadi is a mysterious figure who appears once again when they find all this out and investigates more of Yugi's mind. We won't find out more about Shadi until honestly the final season, but he has a Millennium Key which has the ability to investigate someone's heart and mind. During a trip to the labyrinth of Dark Yugi's side of the mind, the Dark Magician actually tries to attack him and Yugi, but Yugi manages to stop him. This causes Shadi to be absolutely dumbfounded because in real ancient Egyptian shadow games, the Dark Magician only ever served the pharaoh at the time, giving major spoilies in the process. Well, Kaiba and Mokuba are alive and reunited, and Yugi's grandpa is saved. We even get a nickname for this second Yugi, who regular Yugi calls Yami, which means dark in Japanese, by the way. The end! Except not, because we have not one, but 3 filler arcs for the rest of the season. First up is Rebecca Hawkins, who's like a 9-year-old duelist prodigy and duels Yugi. This arc is kinda meh, but basically it explains that Yugi's grandpa got his blue eyes white dragon from Rebecca's grandfather, who's his best friend, and Yugi's grandpa saved his life and all that. That's literally it. I will give props to Rebecca though, because I actually use a mix of her strategy here in season 1 and her strategy in the final season. Next is Legendary Heroes, where Yugi, Joey, Kaiba, Mokuba, and Mai are in a fantasy world, and there's a princess version of Mokuba for some reason. I can't believe Yu-Gi-Oh! Was the first isekai, ladies and gentlemen. Basically, Kaiba's business assistants are angry because Pegasus didn't buy Kaiba Corp, and that's pretty much it. Funny enough, this arc actually repeats itself in the 3rd season, and trust me, it's just as meh there too. Finally is Dungeon Dice Monsters, which was always a personal favorite. Yes, I'm saying that because Duke Devlin is probably the reason I love Edgy Boys so damn much. Duke basically teaches Yugi to play the spin-off game Dungeon Dice Monsters, which literally nobody played and like in either side of the world. But apparently Pegasus liked the bullshit idea so much, he eventually gives Duke a deal to work with him to sell this game around the world. Which is funny, because outside of Duke speaking, we literally never hear anybody talk about this game. Now that's the end of season 1. As much as this first season got me into it, I'll be honest that the story drags on a lot. Granted, it's a shonen, so it's going to drag on in a lot of places, but gosh damn does it drag way more than anywhere else. It doesn't help that it does get a lot of ass pulls in an attempt to look cool, but it does come across as dumb and filled with a lot of plot holes for some reason. Overall, Season 1's story is good and is excellent at hinting at later events, but it does a poor job at balancing out lore with too much filler. This kind of point is going to come up again in the 3rd season. Trust me. I mean, it's rough. Granted, there's a lot of places where it looks really damn good, but the animation often looks a little low quality. That could be where I'm watching this though, as I'm watching the Netflix release of Yu-Gi-Oh! So I don't know if the show is better quality on other streaming sites. It does get major props for not using CGI like I'm sure a modern Yu-Gi-Oh! Anime would have done now. Though now that I think about it, the slightly poor animation could be actually due to the budget of animating detailed monsters. Ah well, you can't really have it both ways in the anime industry unless it was the 90s. Though the color palette here was really boring, lots of blacks, blues, and grays. That if it wasn't a very colorful cast of characters, you'd think this anime was grayscale. I guess it was an attempt to make the characters stand out, but it ends up looking very boring, especially in cave scenes where it's not very interesting. Kind of generic, actually. Overall, the animation is fine, but the color palette and quality leaves a lot to be desired. I'm going to keep this part simple for now because I have a lot to go over in the next category, so here we go. Yugimoto. Yugi used to be very boring to me, but as I got older, I actually started to relate to him more. Basically, he's a shy but sweet kid who's slowly learning to be more confident in himself thanks to a mysterious spirit possessing his body sometimes. Yami Yugi. Gosh damn, my childhood husbando. Seriously, the thirst I had for Yami Yugi in my middle and high school days was fucking ridiculous. You guys think anime fangirls are thirsty for Todoroki and Bakugo? Good lord, you never met me in middle school then. Outside of my prepubescent thirst, I love Yami Yugi. He's not only cool and confident, but he's super mysterious and even a little morally fucked up sometimes. We'll find out more about him later, of course, as this season focused on Yugi, but just know he's awesome. Joey Wheeler. I don't hate Joey, but like, his arc is very annoying. I get an underdog story, and it's really sweet that he fights for his friends like Ike in Super Smash Bros. But it gets to a point where he's too much of a fighter, so Joey is in this constant battle of learning the same shit every fucking episode. Seto Kaiba. I used to despise Kaiba as a kid, but now, good lord, his character is amazing. Not only is he so fucking dramatic and rich that it's hilarious, but he has some of the sassiest dialogue in the entire series in the English dub. He's also very interesting in how he came from nothing but worked his ass off to get to the top at a young age, and he'll do anything to stay at the top. Mokuba Kaiba. I always thought Mokuba was adorable, though it does weird me out that they completely changed Mokuba's personality from being an evil little shit like his brother to a good kid. I mean, I guess it makes more sense that Mokuba would be a good kid since Kaiba probably would have shielded his brother from harsh abuse. Seto Kaiba may be an asshole to everyone, but he is genuinely a good brother. I mean, Mokuba is the example of that. Taya Garter. I'm sorry, but she's so annoying. I get that she loves her friends and cares for them, but bitch, how many times does Yugi need to hear the power of friendship speech? It's like, we know! She also has literally nothing to her aside from friendship and wanting to be a dancer someday. Like, Taya has no arc where she realizes her friends are strong without her, and she learns to be strong on her own, just like none of that. Bakura Ryu. I feel bad for regular Bakura because he is genuinely a really sweet character and was a personal favorite of mine, but the poor boy's entire personality is innocent angel being taken over by an evil character. Yami Bakura. You literally get no feel for his character other than he's evil and wants the Millennium items. And trust me, this is going to be a big occurrence until the final season. He doesn't get to do much aside from saving Taya and Tristan and put Pegasus in a coma, but later seasons he will be a more interesting character for sure. Maximilian Pegasus. I've always loved Pegasus. There's just something cool and well thought out and interesting about him. From being a brilliant artist who loves cartoons to a widower desperate for his wife back, I can't help but really love his character. He's an excellent first season boss. Everyone else either falls into three categories. 1, boring and just a trope we're going to see repeat itself for the next few seasons. 2, semi-interesting but doesn't ultimately amount to anything. 3, Duke Devlin. And no, there is no in between. Overall, the main cast is great, but the rest exist, I guess? Except for Duke Devlin. We all stand the Dice Boy. Oh boy, here we go. The cards are edited in the dub to just show the portraits, stars, type, attack, and defense, because the team couldn't afford to translate all the cards. I know some rumors say otherwise, but remember that 4Kids dubs were made with the budget of a penny, used napkin, and potato chip. Most signs in general were wiped out, even if it was in English, likely due to consistencies as they dug themselves in a hole for dubbing an anime on a possible shoestring budget. Everyone's original names are as follows: Katsuya Junichi, Anzu Mazaki, Hiroto Handa, Pegasus J. Crawford, Cyndia, Mai Kujaku, Ryuji Otogi, Suguru Moto, Insector Haga, Ryota Kaijiki, Labyrinth Brothers, and Dinosaur Ryuzaki. Kaiba's dialogue in the Japanese version suggests that he is a lot more polite than his dub counterpart. Not that he's a good person, just that he speaks more professionally, which makes sense as he is a CEO despite being 15. It's implied Yugi's grandpa was actually beat up when he was taken in the first episode instead of being unable to handle the projection technology. Yugi unfortunately doesn't shout Yu-Gi-Oh like in the dub when he transforms into Yami Yugi. Instead, it's like a magical boy transformation. Any form of gun is completely removed with the exception of Cyber Commander Tristan in episode 13. Guns removed are either edited to look like laser cannons or very aggressive pointing. There's a lot of scenes regarding pervert comedic moments with Taya, basically the same comedy that happens in literally anything that has one girl in a group of guys. Any religious imagery like crosses, references to hell, onks, and others are removed. Considering American television for a younger audience is still sensitive to that kind of imagery, it's kind of a given they would remove it. There is no Shadow Realm in the original. Technically, yes, it's a lot more complicated, but basically if you lost a Shadow game, you would straight up just keel over and die or go to literal hell. A Shadow Realm honestly makes more sense when you think about the final season, but that's just me anyway. Pegasus's motives in the original is to simply beat Yugi to restore Kaiba Corp's reputation, which apparently was fucked up. Nick abducting Mai, the pervert Yugi saves from Taya was actually filming her body, and can't handle boobs. or something, I guess. And that's pretty much it for changes. There's more, obviously, but it's way too much. I will say that it's a lot, but not nearly as much as the second and fourth season, which I say had way more censorship than the first season did. Fun fact, Funimation actually teamed up with 4Kids around 2004 to 2008 in an attempt to make an uncut version of the Yu-Gi-Oh! Dub to be more like how dubs work today, including keeping the Japanese names. Sort of. Though this didn't really go through, and only the first 9 episodes were redubbed. There's never actually been a proper reasoning, but some rumors have suggested it was because more people were buying the uncut version, which was affecting the DVD sales of the cut ones. The profit of the uncut ones was split 50-50, so basically 4Kids wanted more money. Another fun fact. If you still want to watch a Yu-Gi-Oh! Dubbed with faithful dialogue, there's also an English dub made in Singapore. Though if you thought the 4Kids actors were corny and bad sometimes, good lord, the Singapore dub is practically a fan dub made in 2007. Seriously, I watched fan dubs for Fruits Basket in 2009 that had better acting and energy than this. Good God.
Hey, looking good, dude! Are you sure? You sure it's not too much? Looks like too little to me, dude!
Though the dub only went up to season 3 before it stopped for some reason. Overall, the changes are dumb, but they aren't nearly as bad as other seasons. At least the story is consistent so far, and the cutscenes are genuinely not too noticeable here. As kinda meh as the story is half the time for season 1, I still love it. It was the journey of Yugi heading to Duelist Kingdom to save his grandpa that got me hooked to this show for a reason. Hell, I have an action figure of Yugi from Duelist Kingdom back in the day. Every time I see that gauntlet, I'm reminded of all the nostalgic times I would pretend my dolls went to Duelist Kingdom too, or drew pictures of all the cool monsters, which mostly consisted of Dark Magician and Blue Eyes White Dragon. As much as I shit on it, I genuinely do like the first season with its flaws. Yes, by the way, you're seeing rose-tinted glasses at work, but what can I say? Though now, I don't love season 1 as much as I used to. It drags a lot, like a fuck ton, like any tournament arc. But hey, it's still great. Though the dub's acting in season 1 is fucking awful. You can tell a lot of the actors were still getting adjusted to their jobs. Especially Dan Green, who is just coming off of hentai voice acting. Yes, by the way, Dan Green voiced in a hentai, and I dare you guys to look up his scene because it's fucking hilarious. The acting may be bad, but there's some hilariously cheesy dialogue here. Especially Seto Kaiba, who will literally roast anyone in a 5-mile radius and talk so much shit. I love it. That's it for this video now, as painfully long as it is. Next up is my favorite season of Yu-Gi-Oh! Next to the final one, Battle City, otherwise known as Season 2. Let me know down below what you guys think of this video. Did you guys watch Yu-Gi-Oh! When you were younger? Did you ever watch the original Japanese version? As always, let me know down below. Hey guys, thanks for watching! If you liked the video, be sure to give it a thumbs up and consider subscribing if you're new. And if any older new subs would like to help support the channel in any possible way, my Ko-fi page is down below in the description along with all of my social media. For any subscribers, new or old, who would like to help with video ideas or maybe just want to talk about anime or something, then I have a fan server linked down below. See you next time!